Sometimes it's not the work, the deadlines, or the caffeine. Sometimes it's the silent ache of feeling disconnected from a partner, a parent, or even from yourself. In this episode, we explore how unmet emotional needs, unhealed attachment wounds, and relational tension keep the body awake long after the lights go out, when the problem isn't sleep, but loneliness. You say you can't sleep. You tell people it's the coffee, the stress at work, the phone, the late night scrolling. And sure, those things play a part. But deep down, if you're honest with yourself, there's a quieter reason. One that doesn't show up in data or sleep apps. One that you rarely say out loud because it feels too raw, too unfixable. You're lonely. Not necessarily alone. You might be lying next to someone right now. You might have a full house, a full calendar, a life that looks connected from the outside. But inside, you feel unheld, misunderstood. You ache for a deeper kind of closeness, the kind that makes your nervous system exhale and whisper, "I'm safe here." And when that closeness is missing, when the people in your life feel far or conditional or distracted or just not with you in the way you need, your body doesn't rest. Even if your mind says everything is fine, even if your logic tells you it's no big deal, your nervous system knows the truth. We were made to rest inside connection, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, viscerally. So when that sense of safety in connection is broken, when there's tension with your partner or unspoken pain between you and your parents, or when you're carrying years of attachment wounds from people who couldn't meet you where you needed, sleep becomes a battle because your body is waiting for something, a signal that you're not alone, that you're still chosen, that you're still loved even in your messiness, that someone sees you, holds you, and says, you don't have to hold it all by yourself. But when that signal never comes, or hasn't come in a long time, your system stays alert, not just for danger, but for absence, for the echo of care that never arrived, for the warmth that never showed up when you needed it most. And the thing is, this kind of hypervigilance doesn't look dramatic. It looks like tossing and turning, like checking your phone just to feel something, like thinking about old conversations, old arguments, old people, like asking yourself why you're so sensitive, when all you really wanted was to feel safe in someone else's presence. Tonight, maybe it's not about sleep hygiene. Maybe it's not about another supplement or a perfect wind-down routine. Maybe it's about letting your heart speak, letting it say, I'm not okay. I miss being seen. I miss being close. I don't want to be strong alone anymore. How attachment wounds turn into sleep disorders. Your body doesn't forget how it learned to love, or how it learned not to. Long before you had words for it, your nervous system was already learning what connection meant. Was it safe? Was it stable? Was it there when you cried? Did it come back when it left? Did it feel warm or unpredictable? This is where attachment begins, not as a theory, but as a lived cellular experience. And it's from these early experiences that your brain and body shape a basic belief. Can I rest in relationship? If the answer was yes, if your caregivers were attuned, consistent, and safe, then your system grew up knowing what it felt like to exhale in someone else's presence, to fall asleep without tension, to feel held. But if the answer was no, if you had to earn love, or chase it, or survive without it, then your system wired itself for vigilance. And that doesn't just go away. This is why sleep problems aren't just about bedtime. They're about everything your nervous system learned before bedtime was even a concept. For those with anxious attachment, Nighttime is a storm. It's the moment no one is texting back. The moment your partner rolls away and doesn't notice. The moment your brain replays everything you said that day, scanning for signs of rejection. You can't sleep, not because you're weak, but because your nervous system is still waiting for reassurance. The kind it didn't consistently receive when it needed it most. For those with avoidant attachment, the story looks different, but the effect is similar. Your body may look calm, but inside there's a lock, a freeze. You've learned to suppress needs, to stay self-contained, to not need anyone, and that includes emotional safety. So sleep becomes mechanical, functional, but not restorative, because true rest requires emotional openness, and your system doesn't trust that. And then there's disorganized attachment, where care was both a source of comfort and danger, where the people you loved were also the ones who hurt you. In this case, sleep becomes haunted. The body longs to relax, but also fears what might happen if it does. So you stay suspended between exhaustion and tension, never fully awake, never fully asleep. And here's what most people miss. These patterns don't just live in psychology textbooks. They live in you. In the way your chest tightens when your partner turns away. In the way you avoid emotional conversations before bed. In the way you only fall asleep with background noise. Not because it's soothing, but because silence feels unsafe. These aren't bad habits. They're nervous system adaptations to relational pain. And unless we address them, no amount of melatonin or sleep hygiene will fully work. So what's the first step? Naming it. You say, my sleep issues might not be about my habits, they might be about my heart. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Why the nervous system won't let you sleep when you feel disconnected. You can be tired, bone tired, and still not sleep. You can follow all the sleep hygiene advice, put your phone away, drink the tea, take the magnesium, even meditate, and yet your body won't let go. Not really, not fully. Because somewhere inside, your system still believes it's not safe to rest when I feel alone. This isn't loneliness in the social media sense. It's not about the number of people in your life, the texts you receive, or how many events are on your calendar. It's something quieter, more visceral. It's the subtle ache of disconnection. The kind that says, no one really sees me right now. No one's really with me. And the nervous system responds to that kind of disconnection the same way it responds to threat. Because to your body, safety is not an abstract idea. It's not about how rationally safe your environment seems. It's about co-regulation, felt presence, knowing deep in your cells that you are not alone in this moment. When that presence is missing, when your partner is emotionally distant, or your friends are physically present but energetically absent, or when you've gotten so good at hiding your needs that no one even knows you're struggling, your system says, we're not safe. Not in the dramatic life or death way, but in the soft, persistent hum of unease that never really shuts off. And if that hum is still active when your head hits the pillow, sleep doesn't come easily. Because sleep, at its core, is vulnerability. It's the one thing we do that requires full surrender, of control, of awareness, of vigilance. And if your nervous system believes that you're isolated, emotionally, energetically, relationally, it won't let you fall. This is why so many people struggle with sleep, not because of what's wrong with their bodies, but because of what their bodies have learned about relationships, about presence, about what it means to rest in another's care. It might not even be conscious. You might say, I'm fine, I'm just stressed. But your body knows what it feels like to lie next to someone who isn't emotionally there. To smile through the day while feeling unseen. To scroll through photos of happy people while quietly wondering if anyone really knows you. And in that gap, between appearance and reality, between performance and presence, the nervous system becomes a sentinel, watching, guarding, waiting for connection before it will release. So if you've ever wondered, why can't I sleep even when I'm exhausted? This might be why. Because underneath your exhaustion is a nervous system still searching for someone. Maybe someone to hold you. Maybe someone to understand. Maybe just someone to say, you don't have to do this alone. But instead of that voice, you get silence. And silence to a nervous system shaped by emotional neglect or abandonment doesn't feel like peace. It feels like danger, like being left behind, like the worst-case scenario replaying itself again. Not because it's true now, but because it was true then. And here's what makes this even more painful. Sometimes the people in your life are present, but you can't feel them. Because your system is so used to disconnection that it doesn't trust the connection that's available. So it stays tense. It keeps scanning. It rejects rest even when rest is offered. That's not because you're broken. It's because your wiring has been shaped by absence. And until you feel safe enough to receive presence, whether from yourself, someone else, or something greater, sleep will feel like a betrayal of the hypervigilance that once kept you safe. That's the paradox. The very thing that once helped you survive, alertness, independence, detachment, is now the thing that's keeping you from resting. But this can change, slowly, gently, not through force, but through reconnection. One small moment of safety at a time. So what do we do when our bodies don't feel safe to sleep? Not because there's danger, but because there's disconnection. First, we stop making it about willpower. This isn't about trying harder to fall asleep. If anything, the trying is part of the problem. Because behind the trying is fear. Fear that if you don't manage this, you'll fall apart. That no one else will catch you. That if you stop controlling everything, even for a night, you'll unravel. And that's exactly what your nervous system is reacting to. Not the present moment, but the memory. Somatic, emotional, often proverbial, of being left alone to handle too much, too soon. This is why it's so important to stop blaming yourself for not sleeping. Because when you add shame on top of stress, your body locks down even more. And when you shame yourself for failing to sleep, you reinforce the same belief your nervous system already holds. I'm alone. I'm not safe. I have to figure this out by myself. But what if you started with this instead? Of course I can't sleep. My body is still waiting for someone to hold it. Say it out loud. Even if you're alone in your room. Even if no one's ever held you that way before, especially then. Because what you're doing is naming the truth your body already knows. And in naming it, you start to create a new kind of presence. A self-presence that says, I see you. I'm here now. You don't have to stay up all night waiting for someone to come. This is where healing begins. Not with a perfect partner, not with a changed childhood, but with you right now. Showing up to yourself in the way no one could back then. You place your hand over your chest, you take a slow breath, and you whisper, you're not alone anymore. Do this not once, but over and over. Not because repetition is magical, but because repetition is how the nervous system learns. It's how it rewires. It's how it replaces absence with presence, fear with felt safety. And if this sounds too simple to work, good, because simplicity is what your system craves. Not complexity, not performance, not endless techniques. Just presence. Sometimes that presence comes from you. Sometimes it comes from someone you trust, a friend, a partner, a therapist, a voice on a podcast that tells you, me too. Sometimes it comes from something bigger, from faith, from prayer, from a sense of the sacred. Whatever its form, what matters is that your nervous system starts to feel it. Because once it feels that it's no longer alone, it no longer needs to stay awake. That's when rest returns. Not as a goal, but as a response. Not as a reward, but as a birthright. And here's something most people don't realize. Your body doesn't always need someone else to be present in order to feel connection. It just needs to feel held. And there are ways to offer that to yourself, in the dark, in the quiet, in the stillness of your own room, without needing to explain anything or fix anything. It doesn't have to come through words. It can come through sensation, through rhythm, through repetition, through breath. This is where we move into the sacred space of self-co-regulation, where you begin to teach your system what it never got to learn. You are not alone, even when no one else is here. I am. Reconnecting without words, how to soothe the lonely body when sleep feels far away. Start here. Touch. Simple, intentional, grounding touch. Place your hand over your chest, right above your heart. Feel the warmth. Let your hand be still, not moving, not trying to fix anything, just resting, just being there. That alone, that small act, sends a powerful message to your nervous system. Someone is here, even if that someone is you. Next, bring in breath, but not deep, forced breath. That can be triggering for some. Instead, let your exhale be just a little longer than your inhale. Inhale slowly for 4 seconds. Exhale for 6. Do this gently, without pressure. The extended exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of you responsible for rest, digestion, healing. In other words, the part that invites sleep. And then, sound. Not noise, not distraction, but sound that speaks to your system. A soft instrumental, a crackling fire, gentle rain, or even your own voice. Whispering affirmations, not the performative kind, but the kind you wish someone would have said to you when you were little. Like you're safe now, like I'm not going anywhere, like you don't have to earn rest tonight. These phrases, repeated softly, slowly, tenderly, are not cheesy. They're medicine. They give shape to something your inner child has been starving for, assurance. And here's the key. Don't try to believe them. Just let your body hear them. That's enough. The belief will come later. For now, you're just offering presence, like a lullaby, like a quiet hand held out in the dark. You can also use pressure. Weighted blankets work for a reason, not because they're trendy, but because they mimic the experience of being held. If you don't have one, use a thick comforter, or lie on the floor with a pillow across your belly. Anything that gives your body the cue, you're not floating, you're grounded, you're supported. If your mind is still racing, don't fight it. Fighting thoughts only gives them more power. Instead, meet them with curiosity. Ask, what are you trying to protect me from? And then respond, thank you, but I've got us now. Because so often the thoughts aren't the enemy, they're old protectors. Internal night watches, like we talked about before, trying to keep you safe the only way they know how, by keeping you awake. But now you're here, and now you get to say, we don't have to stay on guard tonight. If tears come, let them. If nothing comes, that's okay too. The body unfolds in layers. You're not doing this wrong. You're just doing something your nervous system was never taught. How to rest without rescue. How to soothe without performance. how to feel without fear. It's hard and it's holy. So tonight, let your practices be simple. Let your rituals be honest, and let your presence, imperfect, tired, human, be enough. Because it is, and so are you. When you miss someone who isn't safe, the attachment, pain, sleep loop. There's a specific kind of restlessness that comes from missing someone you know you shouldn't. It's not the sweet, soft ache of a long-distance love. It's not the nostalgic sadness of a friend you grew apart from. It's something darker, messier, more confusing. It's lying in bed at night, heart racing, breath shallow, thinking about someone who hurt you, and still feeling the pull toward them, still wanting their comfort, still aching for their voice, still waiting somewhere inside for a closeness that never felt safe, but still felt like home. And you hate it. You hate that you miss them. You hate that their absence still echoes in your body like a scream that hasn't stopped reverberating. You hate that even after everything, the manipulation, the silence, the moments you were made to feel small, some part of you still wants to feel wanted by them. And here's the thing most people won't say out loud. That part of you isn't broken. It's not weak. It's not foolish. It's attached. And attachment doesn't always make sense. It doesn't ask if someone is good for you. It doesn't care if someone was toxic or unavailable or unkind. It just remembers how it felt to be near them. How your body organized itself around their presence. How your nervous system clung to even the smallest crumbs of connection because crumbs were better than nothing. So now, even in their absence, especially in their absence, your system stays awake. Not because you're obsessed, but because your body hasn't unlearned the pattern. Love equals alertness. Love equals confusion. Love equals a waiting game. That's the loop. Pain triggers memory. Memory triggers longing. Longing triggers arousal. Not the romantic kind, but the stress response kind. And in that state, sleep becomes impossible. Because you're not just lying in bed anymore. You're reliving an emotional posture, scanning for their attention, bracing for rejection, chasing the brief highs of being chosen, and fearing the lows of being discarded. Even worse, you start to doubt yourself. You think, if I really healed, I wouldn't miss them. Or worse, maybe they weren't that bad. And that thought, that's your attachment talking. Not because it's stupid, but because it's scared. It's trying to make sense of pain by rewriting the story into something safer. Something where maybe you were the problem. Because if it was your fault, at least that means you had control. And control feels safer than powerlessness. But it's not the truth. The truth is, you can miss someone and know they weren't safe. You can crave their voice and remember the hurt it caused. You can feel pulled to them and still choose not to go back. Both can be true. And holding both, at 2 a.m. when your chest is tight and your stomach is hollow and you're replaying their last words like a broken song, that's what healing looks like. Not forgetting, not pretending, but witnessing. With compassion, you whisper to yourself, "Of course I miss them. That was my nervous system's source of regulation for so long. And then, but I'm learning new ways now." Sometimes what keeps you awake at night isn't just the pain of the past. It's the ache of confusion. The mental tug-of-war between logic and longing. You know on some level that this person wasn't good for you. That their love came with terms, conditions, silence, spikes, unpredictability. But your body doesn't speak in logic. It speaks in memory. And the memory it holds isn't just about hurt. It's also about the moments you felt seen, even if briefly. The eye contact that lit you up. The text message at 2 a.m. that made your stomach flutter. The moment they said, "I miss you," even though it was followed by days of nothing. That's the cruelty of intermittent reinforcement. It trains your nervous system to stay alert for rare rewards. To cling to the high because the high makes the low feel survivable. So now every time you try to fall asleep, your mind starts checking, replaying, wondering. It says, what if they were just scared like me? What if I misunderstood them? What if they're thinking about me right now? And the thoughts become obsessive, not because you're obsessive, but because your body is still in survival mode, still waiting for a resolution that may never come. And here's where sleep becomes not just elusive, but threatening. Because when you sleep, you're not thinking, you're not scanning, you're not rehearsing safety strategies. Sleep asks you to surrender, but your attachment wound says, we can't surrender, we haven't earned safety yet. We still have to solve this. That's why you lie awake. Because some part of you believes, if I figure this out, if I understand them, or heal myself enough, or find the right words, I'll finally stop hurting. But that's not how healing works. Sometimes you don't get closure from them. Sometimes the only closure you get is accepting that they couldn't love you the way you needed. Not because you were unlovable, but because they were unequipped. And sometimes the body mourns not just the person, but the version of yourself who kept hoping, who waited, who tried to be enough. So let yourself grieve that version. Let yourself grieve the dream. Let yourself say, I still miss them, and I still choose me. Because here's the secret. The pain isn't proof that you should go back. The pain is proof that you're finally letting go of the fantasy, and that hurts like hell. But it's also the beginning of freedom. Because in the letting go, there's a space. And in that space, something else can grow. Not right away, not overnight, but slowly, gently, a new kind of love, a new kind of rest. The kind that doesn't spike your cortisol, the kind that doesn't depend on someone else's mood, the kind that comes from knowing deeply, quietly, that you are worthy of peace. Even if they never gave it to you, even if they never come back, even if your body still shakes with the memory of their name, you are still allowed to rest. You don't have to wait for their apology. You don't have to wait until the longing ends. You can begin tonight, not by forgetting them, but by remembering you. Breaking the cycle, how to retrain the body to feel safe without toxic attachment. Healing from toxic attachment is not about erasing memories. It's not about pretending you never loved them or that the connection didn't matter. Because it did. And your body remembers. It remembers the highs and the lows, the rush and the crash, the ache and the ecstasy. And trying to deny that only creates more stress, more dissonance inside your system. What healing is about is teaching your body that love doesn't have to come with pain. That connection can exist without chaos. That rest can arrive even when no one else does. But to break that cycle, you can't just talk your way out of it. Because the patterns live in your nervous system, not your logic. They live in the way your shoulders tense when your phone doesn't buzz, in the way your stomach knots when someone you care about pulls away, in the way you check their Instagram even though you blocked them 2 weeks ago. This isn't weakness. This is wiring. So the work is repatterning. And it starts small, not with grand declarations, not with cutting cords in a ceremony, but with consistent, embodied reminders of safety. Daily moments that whisper to your body, you are not in danger. You don't need them to be okay. I'm here. Start with this. Every time you feel the pull, to reach out, to stalk their stories, to replay old conversations. Pause. Breathe. Place your hand on your chest and ask, what am I actually needing right now? Because often, the craving for them is really a craving for something they represented. Validation, affection, regulation, excitement, and those needs are real, but they don't have to be met by someone who also hurt you. Next, bring the body into regulation. This means simple, repetitive practices that signal safety. A slow walk where you pay attention to the soles of your feet, rocking back and forth while seated, mimicking the motion of being held. Humming, yes, humming, because it activates the vagus nerve and tells your system, we're okay. These things seem small, even silly, but they work because they bypass your mind and speak directly to your survival system. You can also start building new associations around rest. If you've always fallen asleep after texting them, your brain may now associate sleep with their presence. So create new rituals. Light a specific candle. Wrap yourself in a soft blanket. Listen to a new playlist, one that calms your system without triggering old memories. The goal isn't to suppress the past, it's to create new neural paths toward peace. And when the grief hits, and it will, don't fight it. Let the tears come, let the tremble happen. Because grief is not regression, grief is release. It's your body shedding what it no longer wants to carry. Let it pass through. Hold yourself during the waves. Speak gently. Don't rush. Over time, as you practice these small acts of self-regulation, something begins to shift. The attachment doesn't vanish, but it loosens. The pain doesn't disappear, but it becomes less urgent. And most importantly, your system starts to believe something radical. I don't need to suffer to be loved. I don't need to stay awake to stay safe. I don't need to abandon myself to avoid abandonment. This is how we break the cycle, not with one big decision, but with 100 small moments of choosing yourself, choosing peace, choosing to stay, learning to rest in solitude, rebuilding sleep as a place of safety, not emptiness. There comes a moment in healing when the ache for someone else softens, not because they've returned, not because the pain has vanished, but because you've stopped waiting for them to complete something inside you. You start to notice the quiet. At first, it feels like loss, like an echo without origin, like the kind of silence that makes your bones remember everything you tried to forget. But then, slowly, the silence changes. It becomes space. Space to breathe. Space to stretch. Space to rest. And that shift from silence is suffering to silence is sanctuary is one of the most profound signs that healing has begun. Solitude becomes something different. Not punishment, not exile, but presence with yourself fully. Of course, this doesn't happen all at once. In the beginning, solitude can feel sharp, raw, like a wound exposed to air. You lie down in bed and it feels too quiet. You hear everything, the creak of the floorboards, the hum of the refrigerator, the beating of your own heart. And instead of peace, you feel panic. Because for so long, sleep meant togetherness. It meant someone breathing next to you, someone to text goodnight, someone to hold your weight without words. Now it's just you, and that emptiness feels like abandonment all over again. But what if it's not? What if it's an invitation? If you're still here with me, maybe you're lying in bed right now, the lights are off, the house is still, and you're quietly feeling the aftertaste of all the truths we've touched tonight. Maybe you're thinking about someone. Maybe you're thinking about yourself. Maybe you're realizing that your sleeplessness was never just about noise or caffeine or screen time. but about old stories that your body still whispers at night. I want you to know this. You are not broken for craving love. You are not weak for missing someone who wasn't safe. You are not foolish for needing warmth. These are human longings. They just got tangled with pain. And tonight, you've begun the work of untangling them, slowly, gently, without rushing. If something we shared resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments or leave a review. Your voice matters. If this episode helped you feel seen, maybe it'll help someone else too. Feel free to share it with a friend, a partner, or even someone you once loved but had to let go. You never know who's lying awake tonight needing these words. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We're just getting started. Each week, we peel back another layer of the connection between stress and sleep. And you, my friend, are part of this healing circle. Until next time, take a breath. Touch your chest. Whisper something kind to yourself before the night swallows your thoughts. You are safe to rest now. You are safe to come home. Not to someone else, but to yourself. Good night.